Hi, how y'all doing? So, we're going to jump back into Flipped, and Juliana had gone to visit her Uncle David for his birthday with Dad, and it's the first time she's ever done this. They took him for an ice cream cone, which seems pretty simple, but it didn't go well. David really had a major meltdown. Um, and Juliana starts asking Dad, why haven't we had him around for Thanksgivings or Christmases or gone to visit him? And Dad kind of letting her know that, it just doesn't go well when this happens. So let's see. He was saying that the years just seem to slip away, Juliana. One day you have a baby in your arms, and the next you realize she's very nearly a woman. I love David, but he is a burden, and I guess I wanted to protect you from that. But I realize now that all of this has affected you and the family. But, Dad, it's not Juliana. What I am trying to tell you is I'm sorry. There was so much I wanted to give you, all of you. I guess I didn't see until recently how little I've actually provided. That's not true. Well, I think you know my heart's been in the right place, but if you line it up objectively, a man like, say, Mr. Losky adds up to a much better husband and father than a man like me does. He's around more, he provides more, and he's probably a lot more fun. My dad wasn't one to go fishing for compliments or signs of appreciation, but still, I couldn't quite believe he actually thought that. Dad, I don't care how it looks on paper. Oh, I just lost my place. Hold on. There it is. I don't care how it looks on paper. I think you're the best dad ever. And when I marry someday, I sure don't want him to be like Mr. Lasky. I want him to be like you. He looked at me like he couldn't quite believe his ears. Is that so? He said with a grin. Well, I'll remind you of that when your someday approaches. That turned the rest of the trip around. We laughed and joked and talked about all kinds of things. But as we neared home, there was one thing the conversation kept turning back to: pancakes. My mother, though, had other plans. She had spent the morning scrubbing floors and nixed the pancakes. I need something with more staying power, like grilled ham and cheese with onions. Lots of onions. Scrubbing floors? My dad said. It's Sunday, Trina. Why are you scrubbing floors? Nervous energy. She looked at me. How'd it go? Okay, I'm glad I went. She glanced at my dad and then at me. Well, good, she sighed. Then she said, I also felt like scrubbing because I got a call from Patsy. Losky? My dad asked. Is something wrong? My mother pushed a few wisps of hair back and said, No, she called to invite us for dinner on Friday. We blinked for a moment and then I asked, All of us? Yes. I could see what my dad was thinking. Why? All these years of living across the street and we had never been invited over. Why now? My mom could see it too. She sighed and said, Robert, I don't exactly know why, but she was insistent. She was practically in tears, saying how sorry she was that she has never invited us before and how she would really like to get to know us better. What did you tell her? Well, I couldn't very well say no. She was being so nice, and Chet really has done a lot. She shrugged and said, I said we'd go. It's set for 6 o'clock Friday night. Really? I asked. She shrugged again. I think it might be nice. A little strange, but nice. Well, okay then, my dad said. I won't schedule any overtime for Friday. What about the boys? There's no gig on their calendar, and they're not scheduled to work, but I haven't talked to them about it yet. Are you sure they want all of us over? My dad asked. My mom nodded. She insists. I could tell the whole idea of dinner at the Loskys was making my dad pretty uncomfortable, but we could both see that something about this invitation meant a lot to my mother. All right, then, he said, and got to work slicing cheese and onions. For the rest of the afternoon, I sort of lazed around, reading and daydreaming, and at school the next day, I couldn't seem to concentrate. My thoughts kept turning back to David. I wondered what my grandparents had been like, what they'd gone through having a son like him. Daydreamed a lot about the sycamore tree, too, which at first I thought was because I was feeling melancholy. But then I remembered how my mother had called the sycamore a testimony to endurance. It had survived being damaged as a sapling. It had grown. Other people thought it was ugly, but I never had. Like, maybe it was all how you looked at it. Maybe there were things I saw as ugly that other people thought were beautiful, like Shelley Stahl's. A perfect example. To me, there was absolutely nothing to recommend her, but the rest of the world seemed to think she was the cat's meow. Meow. Anyway, I sort of drifted through the week like that until Thursday. Thursday, our social studies class went to the library to do research for our famous historical figure report. I had chosen Susan B. Anthony and her fight for the right to vote, and I was in the middle of tracking down some books when Darla Tesler flagged me from the end of the stack. Darla was in a few of my classes, but we weren't really friends, so I looked behind me to see who else she might be trying to flag down. Come here, she mouthed frantically, waving me over. So I hurried over. She pointed through the column of books and whispered, "Listen." It was Garrett's voice, then Bryce's, and they were talking about me, about my chickens, and salmonella poisoning, and how Bryce had been throwing away my eggs, and about me fixing up our yard. Bryce was sounding like he felt really bad, but then suddenly my blood ran cold. He was talking about Uncle David. Uh-oh, this isn't going to end well. I can't imagine that it would. Holy moly. And it doesn't sound like either family is too excited about this dinner party, does it? Hmm. All right. We'll find out what happens, what she does with the information about them talking about her uncle. I can't imagine she's going to be very happy about it. I'll talk to you next time. Stay safe, stay healthy, be kind to one another.